Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the impact it's having. My intention when I began was really to guide people on their journey, to hold people's space while they're going through a spiritual shift, maybe spiritual awakening, and share whatever knowledge I have. And with the messages I get every week and with just the nudges, the messages, clients, I love the impact this podcast is having. So if you're a regular listener, thank you. Welcome back. If this is your first listen, welcome. Let me know if you have any feedback. Feedback's always a blessing. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I love to do, what I get to do is to guide people on their journey. I hold people's space while they're going through a shift, while releasing the programming to truly understand who you are. I love what I get to do. I feel so blessed with it. And so thank you. Also with this podcast, I get to interview some amazing guests. And I've known Neerja for many years, but we recently reconnected, ironically, just before a Raleigh trip. Raleigh, North Carolina is where I used to visit in my corporate world. And I just happened to be going back for a friend's wedding. And just happened to connect with Neerja a few weeks before that. Learned that she was actually not in Raleigh, in Durham, but close enough for us to connect. And we've stayed connected since then. And I just love the synchronicity of the universe. The synchronicities that, seem like the coincidences, but I don't really believe in coincidences. And so Neerja, I'm excited to have you here. Thank you for joining. I'd love for you to introduce yourself in whatever words you have in your heart.
Yeah, Nimesh, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me and trusting that I have something important to say for your viewers, your listeners. So, my name is Neerja Bhatia, and I've been on a spiritual journey ever since I was born. I've been drawn to energy. I really feel as a child, all of us have access to tremendous wonder. We're gifted with that, and we're vibrating with so much love and enthusiasm. And then these labels start to come on. And for whatever reason, everything's inside of us, and yet we have to venture out to discover that what we're looking for is within. So that's how my journey has been. And through my journey, I have done a lot. I am a facilitator, a coach, an author, and I do intertwine a lot of energy work, if you will, or an understanding of human purpose, human soul into whatever I do in the corporate world. Even leadership development, self awareness is such a big part of it. It is not called spiritual work. I don't know why, but that's exactly what it is. And I think it's high time with AI here that we call it what it is, as it is bringing up a lot of identity crisis. And how wonderful that we get the opportunity to hold the space and create something beautiful from the inside out for human beings.
I love it. I love it. And it's it is interesting when you talk about the corporate space, right? I mean, do the labels really matter? Whether you call it consciousness, mindfulness, it's a journey to you, right? And we met in the corporate space, right? I spent many years in a company called Red Hat, and that's where we met. And I would say when I joined Red Hat, I spiritual, maybe always been, I guess, from, but maybe not to this level. I was still very much focused on becoming successful in the corporate space, and but I'm curious. I mean, for me, for a while in the corporate space, I had my foot in both camps. I was the bridge, and I still felt like in many ways I'm the bridge. A lot of my clients come from the corporate space. But I'm wondering what do you feel about the current energy in terms of what the planet's going through, and what are you seeing in your day to day?
Yeah. There is a lot of fear. There is a lot of unknown. And in one sense, you would say, but it's always been like that. There's always been unknown, there's always been constant change. And yet, I feel with AI, it's expedited. It's expedited to a point where we don't know what we don't know. And also, the reason why I said the identity crisis, everything that AI does, in a way, we have traded our wonder for worth. And we build our worth upon being creative, being analytical, being all the things that AI is now doing. So it leaves us with this big question mark. If it's taking away everything, if it can do things faster, and more efficiently than we can, then who are we truly? So that is creating more of uncertainty, unrest in the self, more stress, burnout. Um, and I think there are some people who are really looking at it as an opportunity to step up and step beyond and take back the ownership of who they are and return um, to the beautiful brilliance that they've always been, but they've covered it up with the tasks or achievements or their definition of success, which is now failing them.
Mm. I love that, and it's just I get asked the AI question quite a lot more recently, and for me, I don't really worry about AI. I talked about it on this podcast before. I don't. I feel like AI will be whatever you want it to be. So if you're fearful of it and you feel like it's going to replace you, it probably will.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you feel like it's a part of you, maybe an extension of you, I mean, I use AI for a lot of what I do. I mean, whatever comes from the podcast, it's all channeled. But then I put the transcript through ChatGPT, and it helps me create the summary. And obviously, I still edit, and it's still my energy, my vibration. But I don't fear it. Maybe some people will call me naive. I just, for me, I feel Mother Nature, our guide, source, has a plan, and AI is part of this massive shift that the planet's going through. I feel like the shift is going to come on so many different levels. AI, feel like there's going to be a lot of chaos on the planet. Unfortunately, a lot of pain. When we're shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, the whole axis of the planet is shifting, and that is going to cause some disruption, some pain. It's just it's the nature of the shift, right? And do I sometimes wish it could be a different way? Yeah, but who am I to stop people's pain, right? We grow from that pain. We grow from that. So I'm wondering, what are you? I mean, apart from the AI, what are you seeing in your day to day? I mean, for me in the corporate, I'm finding more and more people are open to one-to-one conversations. Are people open in a group setting yet? I'm not sure, but I'm definitely getting more and more spiritual, maybe the wrong word, but more conscious conversations within the corporate space. And it's just interesting for me. It's just, I've resisted spending too much time within the corporate space, within a group setting. Obviously, a lot of my clients come from that space, but I do feel like the corporate space needs healing from within.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what are you seeing on a day-to-day basis? Are you starting to, aside from AI, are you starting to have more conscious conversations? Are people asking you a different sort of question? I'm curious what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thanks for asking that, Nimesh. I can only compare it to, I don't know. I, I don't know if people are going to go through more pain. I know one thing for sure. I've seen what I've seen, and I did see COVID, which has really changed things. Pre COVID conversations and post COVID. conversations are very different in group settings in the corporate world. And somewhere in their subconscious minds, people are realizing that was so out of our control. And what we learned through that experience was tremendous. So, a lot of surrendering and letting go is part of the conversation. And we don't know what's going to happen next. There's a lot of unknown. And I think there is more leaning into that. So, in one way, humbling of the ego is definitely a lot more evident from what I see. And I do hear it a lot that, the planet is going through a shift. I'm very open. I get it. I understand it, that there is so much out of our hands, and we are evolving too. As a species, we are evolving so much faster now than I've ever seen in my life, because I've been on this journey for a long, long, long time. And even pre COVID, even 15, 20 years ago, when I started to teach emotional intelligence, there was resistance. And now there is an openness to a level where the conversations are really about, who am I at the core? Who am I? If you strip me of all these titles, what's remaining?
So powerful. It's so true, right? We put so much emphasis, and I did it. When I first started, I was like, when I become a manager of people, then I'll be happy. It's like when I become a senior manager, when I become a director, and I become senior director, I was like, what are these steps I'd get there? I'm like, okay. Okay, so what? Just like, it's almost like we're searching for something outside. And over time you realize what you're searching for is inside. And I can't, I can pinpoint a time when kind of an awakening happened, I guess, in some way inside of me. But when my priorities shifted, when the titles became less important, I just feel that happened gradually. But I'm curious for you. Tell us more about your journey from being in the corporate world to still enhancing your spiritual journey, kind of growing your spiritual journey. What was that like?
Before I entered the corporate world, I remember I was very happy just being a stay-home mom. The kids were very, very young at the time, 1 and 2, and I didn't even want or had the desire to climb the ladder or anything. Been there, done that. I was very happy having a simple life. However, at that time, I had a spiritual guru who forced me to go back into the corporate world. And I remember crying. I said, "Oh no, if I go there, I'm going to lose all my uh, peace of mind. I'm going to lose that. And the bliss that I feel from the inside out is going to be gone. And I don't want to do that." So, anyways, I did. I listened and I went back. And in a lot of ways, I'm really, really glad, because a lot of my evolution truly happened in the corporate world. I learned so much more about me. I grew. I became a leader, and I was climbing the ladder and actually enjoying the success. My ego was, feeding itself and growing and feeling really good about myself. Became a director of sales and marketing. And then one night I just woke up. It was in 1999. And something just shook me. And I said, "This is not what I want." And I just left the corporate world without a plan, Nimesh. And I told the kids we're moving from California back to Calgary, Alberta. And they cried because they had made friends and they loved the life in California. And I said, "No, mom's got to follow her dream." And that's when I actually created my company called Rhythm of Success, which came to me in my dream.
Beautiful.
And that rhythm truly meant, I saw it clearly in my dreams, that meant aligning the mind, heart, and your will. And in that alignment, I've seen magnificence. I've experienced it over and over again. And when that alignment is missing, I've also experienced the opposite, the stress over and over again, the doubt over and over again. And so I started off this company looking for, clients and consulting in the spiritual realm. And I had the beginner's luck, had wonderful first few months, and then nothing, absolutely nothing. So what do I do? At the time, I was a single mom. And I said, well, I have to get back into work. And a very good friend of mine in California, she introduced me to Dr. Prasad Kaipa, who at that time had a company called Self Corp, very Vedic Indian company connecting the self to the corporation. So, people can really live a fulfilled corporate life, but also fulfilling their purpose, their
Amazing.
spirituality. And his logo was a box, and as a human being, the individual is stuck in a box, but there is an opening at the bottom. But the way the human being is stuck, the person cannot see the opening. So I joined his team as the director of marketing. So I was understanding what he was teaching, and it just blew my mind away. He had created a system, a mind system to understand where we get our energy, where we lose our energy. And I was learning about leadership. I had no idea that's what I was going to get into fast forward, but I was learning from him. So I do believe that the universe brings you the right opportunities,
100%.
the right path, the right people in your life. So this is how I started my so-called non-spiritual journey in the corporate world, but it was truly spiritual, if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense. I love it.
Yeah, so that's how I started, and then I met my husband, and got married and moved to Connecticut with the children, and then I started, finding jobs or contracts related to emotional intelligence, and that too had so much spiritual presence into it through self-awareness, and I was very drawn to it. And now, 25 years later, I
Wow.
have not only just integrated what I learned from Dr. Prasad Kaipa, but emotional intelligence and over a dozen psychometric analysis tools, and so many other certifications. Again,
Mm.
every one of them was a stepping stone, flowering into a deeper understanding of what does it mean to live without your unconscious biases. What does it mean to live without judgment and to embrace? And Nimesh, I cannot tell you that, oh yeah, I had this awakening and I knew overnight. It's been a step by step process. And I still ask myself, what do I want to do when I grow up? Do I have all the
I can
pieces?
relate. I can relate. I'm always going to be a kid, I just, it's all good. It's all part of it.
Yeah. And I think I heard you say that in one of the conversations when the light went on when we were having dinner, that we don't know everything. And I know we don't know everything. We don't know so much. But what we need to know shows up in the moment
Yeah.
as long as we are willing and open.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is I know nothing. I just, obviously I have a lot of human knowledge. I've had lots of corporate training. But when I let go of owning anything, it allows me to receive new information, right? I feel like we're at a phase now, we're receiving new information from different places, and it's our expectations that we're holding on to. It's our knowledge that we've worked so hard to gain, right? I mean, you just said you had so many, so many qualifications, but in many ways, I feel like the world we're entering into is all new. And if it's all new, then are we going to create a new way of being from existing knowledge? or are we going to receive new knowledge from a different perspective? And we've talked before about some of the sessions you run, and yeah, there's a structure to them, but there's also some channeling. So I'm curious, how does that feel for you to have the structure that the training? And because for me, my mentorship program as an example, I feel like the framework I've channeled, the human needs to know, right? The human needs to see this framework, needs to have a structure, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. But I really feel like every session is channeled. And, so I'm kind of, for me, everything, it's about balance. We need the ego, we need the human, we also need the spirit. And it's kind of like, I try and find balance and keep all of them happy in my sessions. But I'm curious, how does that work for you in your sessions? When, would you feel like you're following the material? Do you feel like you're channeling information? How do you find the balance between the two?
Yeah. It's so fascinating what you're calling channeling. I call it being in the flow, being in the zone. When
Yeah.
I get out of my mind, I'm out of my way. I have a sense. Following any structure is very stifling for me. It's always been stifling for me. And I know a friend of mine used to say, John Barb, that Neerja, you create poetry, you create beautiful things, but you still need a frame to hang your painting, whatever you're creating. So any structure or any certification or any course that I prepare for, it does provide a structure, but no two experiences are the same. If anybody tells me to replicate it, or if anybody even tells me, Neerja, what did you just say? Can I, you know, record it, write it? And I'll say, I don't remember what I just said. Um, so maybe Nimesh, you can tell us more about channeling, but to me it is, in that moment, I'm a very sensing person. So when I am in the zone, when I am in the flow, I'm only 5 feet. I probably feel like I'm 10 feet tall, and I feel like I'm so powerful, and my consciousness has expanded beyond my own understanding, and it feels great. That's the best feeling. So why I do the work that I do, because it's the feeling that I slip into. It's it's absolutely beautiful, absolutely magnificent. It's worth living.
I love it. I love it. I love the passion by which you talk about it. It's like, you know, I don't really focus on, oh my God, I need to find my passion and, wow, what makes us think we only have one purpose? But I love how the energy you put into it. And, whether you call it channeling or whether you call it in flow, and for me, it's the same thing. It's where we let the human part of ourselves go. And yeah, we're in flow. We're just receiving information. Whether we feel taller than, just we're allowing ourselves to be and receive information from where it comes from. Who cares? Why do we need to give it a label? But it's just, I always focus on, how do I make people feel? My purpose, I'll always say is, anyone I connect with, I want to leave them better than I found them. That allows me to do anything. I can do podcasting, I can public speaking, I can do group work, individual mentoring, whatever, retreats, whatever I want to do in that day. And, it's beautiful that I got this podcast, because I know at least one person will listen to it every day, more than one for sure, and I'll make a difference.
Mhm.
So it means if there's a day I end up doing nothing and not talking to anybody, I know that what I've done is still out there making a difference. So I'm fulfilling my purpose on a day-to-day basis. We wrap around ourselves around, oh my God, what's our purpose? I don't feel life is that complicated. And I love the way you described it, just being in flow. And it's interesting, sometimes when I don't feel like I'm in flow, I know I am in flow. It's just a beautiful existence if you're open to magic. And so I'd love for you to talk a bit more about, how do you feel your journey and being in flow has shifted? I know you mentioned pre-COVID, post-COVID. And just so you know, when I talk about the planet going through a shift, it's just a feeling. It's a feeling of what I feel the planet's going through. yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. Could I? It's just my truth. Wherever it comes from, Akashic Records, it's a feeling. And honestly, every month you see more and more proof that it's happening. But what's shifting for you? What's different in your world from a day-to-day basis in terms of what you're receiving, how much you're in flow? Do you feel personally things are shifting for you?
Yeah, that's a beautiful awareness that you're bringing to me in this moment, Nimesh. So thank you. Um, that's my experience of you. Every conversation that we have, you bring something
Thank
new,
you.
new to me. The shift that I am experiencing is that I have less attachment to things being a certain way. And there's more openness to leaning in. And, I'm not a very detailed person. I'm more of a big picture person. And when I start to connect the dots, I feel more at ease with myself. And there is this level of, okay, even when the unease arises, I'm able to not get reactive, but to really observe it from a place. And one of the things that I've always uh, quoted, uh, Einstein, you cannot solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. And I truly believe that it's such an overused quote and least understood. And even in leadership development, we talk about seeing ourselves from the balcony of ourselves, but it's just a concept. But to be able to see ourselves from a higher consciousness and notice the experience we are experiencing, to me, that is a spiritual awakening. To me, that is a higher point of consciousness. And the longer I can stay in it, the more I recognize the presence in me, the more I recognize that I am not all these labels. I am not the identity that I have given myself. Um, and then when that consciousness drops into the day to day, I forget.
I love it.
There's that forgetting, and then
Mm.
there's the remembering. So the dance between the remembering and forgetting is becoming more and more available to me consciously versus unconsciously that it used to be before.
Beautiful. So, what would your advice be to somebody who's trying to have that dance between, the different elements of them? Maybe they feel disconnected. Um, because I know a lot of people right now feel a bit disconnected. I feel like the human and the spirit is maybe more disconnected than usual because the human can feel a shift but wants to know more, wants to control it. And the spirit is at a point saying, no, let me go, let me be free. Let me just, and it's kind of like, and it's beautiful to see the dance between the two. But what would your advice be to anyone that's kind of wanting to go and understand their journey more and understand how they can get balance between the two in the way you describe it?
Yeah. So, Nimesh, I can give any advice. And I also know the knowing that a lot of times it's grace. A friend of mine used to say, the winds of grace are always flowing. All you have to do is raise the sail. And I used to say, wow, how do you raise the sail though? Like the how is the mind's question. It's coming from the mind. And when the grace, I mean, of course, the grace is always there, but when there's an opening and it enters the heart, it happens by itself. You are
Love it.
at a higher level of consciousness and you're observing it. So there's two things that I have noticed in my own experience that creates it. One is when you are totally loving what you're doing, you're in nature. you're watching the sunrise, and it's something bigger than life. Watching a sunset or a sunrise, or
Love it.
watching the
Mm.
ocean, or being with people that induces that experience of being bigger. Like just being with you here, Nimesh. There's no judgment.
Yeah.
There's absolute flow of energy. Imagine what would become possible if in the corporate environment or in families we could create this type of an energy exchange. I don't even want to call it an energy exchange, but this kind of witnessing each other without judgment. It's all pure, unconditional grace and love, if I can call it that. And everything is in the flow, everything is in the zone. Your mind gets out of the way because you are feeling relaxed. There's psychological safety. That's how it's created. And we ask our leaders to create psychological safety when they're feeling so much fear inside. But it, it's it's grace, and it's an inside out job. And it's also seeing each other beyond the labeled mind. It's seeing each other without judgment, without preconceived notions.
Beautiful. You know, I talk a lot about picking your tribe, and I feel like we're being pushed to really look at the people in our world and ask ourselves that question: do we have people in our world that allow us to be? They raise our vibration, and or do you have people in your world where you have to lower your vibration to be around or be somebody you're not? And I feel like it's time for us to really challenge ourselves about the people who we have in our world. And, if we don't have the right people that hold our space, then manifest the right ones, right? And at the same time, there's a whole different realm. There's a whole different way of being too. And when we start talking about our intuition, our guides, and how much support we have there. But I do feel on the human realm, it's time to get real with ourselves and not lower our vibration. So I guess to the listener, just check out the people in your world, and your blood family. I talk again a lot about it. Your blood family are not always here to love you. Sometimes they're here to expand you. So if you don't have people in your world that hold your space and allow you to be, then maybe it's time to manifest it. And the second thing you said is about doing things that you love and enjoy. And the other thing I feel like 100%, if you love a sunset, I love the full moon. I'm also obsessed with, sunsets, sunrises, just the beauty of the beginning, and and then the full moon's so healing, and just like nature's so. But again, at the same time, I feel like a lot of us are being pushed to do things on a day-to-day basis that we love doing.
Yeah.
So if you're in a career that is, that you feel stifled, and maybe start a side project, which may become your permanent project. But I feel like doing things that lift our soul on a regular basis is like feeding us a different level. And I feel like it's really important right now. So thank you for your advice there. I feel it's so beautiful to just experience life. We're a soul having human experience. You mentioned Einstein, the quote I always use is, definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing, expect a different set of results. And I feel like we have to do something different, because it's like we've all gone through a shift internally. I feel like we've all kind of gone through a shift, and maybe call it a rebirth, reset, whatever you want to do. But I feel like we need to get time to know this new version of ourselves. I feel like we take ourselves for granted, and, think the things we've always loved doing, we still love doing. I feel like we should challenge ourselves to do new things that we've never done before. Just an interesting time.
Yeah.
So how do you keep yourself connected to source, your guides, whatever you want to call it? What do you do on a regular basis that allows you to stay connected?
Yeah, there's quite a few things that I do. One is I do meditate, and there are many forms of meditation. Uh, to me, my work also becomes the meditation. when I am in the zone, when I'm in the flow, that is meditation to me. I do take time to sit down and meditate, and I actually intentionally, other than taking certifications for my corporate evolution, I I am probably doing more of taking courses with people who are very much trained in the spiritual realm, just like yourself, Nimesh. Like I'm always curious to learn, and you could probably call me a spiritual geek. It's no matter how much I learn, it's not enough. And practice, and then have a tribe. Even my husband is part of my tribe.
Hmm.
Him being in the IT world and very, very analytical. When we first got married 25 years ago, he wasn't like that at all, but I really got him to get interested in the things that I'm interested in.
Beautiful.
So I really intentionally create my environment in such that I love to paint, and painting is also like I'll create mandalas, and that is a form of meditation. And sometimes, people will give me feedback. Was that a computer generated image? And I'll say, no, it was. I mean, I literally sat there with my hand connecting the dots, um, and then I listen. Um, yeah. And there's a lot more. Sometimes I think like I said, I am a spiritual geek, and I love it. I love being a spiritual geek. I wouldn't
I love
change
it.
that about myself.
I love it. I love it. The way I see it is I'm always going to be a student. I'm always going to be learning, growing, expanding. The day I stop learning, the day I stop expanding is probably the day I leave this realm, right? I feel like we're always learning. And this is why I always feel like we're healing. We're always growing. The universe has a great way of keeping us honest and making sure that we know that, making the universe make sure that we know that still got stuff to learn, right? Because things are shifting so much. And what if we're here to create that, just create that beauty, be part of that beauty? It's just, I love it. So one of the things you haven't talked about, and I feel like, a lot of us are being called to use our voice, speak our truth, um, use it as one of our gifts, as a way of shining our light, sharing our truth. You recently did a TEDx, and I hope by the time we release this, it's available for people to watch and hear. We'll include it in the show notes and all that sort of stuff. But I'd love for you to share what that experience was like, using your voice. The journey to use your voice to. For me, I always say my voice is my gift. I feel like it's healing. I get told it puts people to sleep, which I take as a compliment. So I'm curious, what was that experience like to use your voice to project, to heal? What does that feel like?
Yeah. So before I go there, yes, you do have your gift as your voice, and I've
Thank
heard
you.
your meditations. They're beautifully guided meditations. I would highly, highly recommend it to anyone. And not only does it put me to sleep, but it also gives me insights, by the way, and I can
I
stay
love it.
awake after listening to them. So back to my TEDx talk. I really want to take us back to when I was about 4 or 5. And there were a lot of times I still remember it very, very vividly, other than my husband and some of my very close friends. I've never ever stated this publicly, that I did see myself speaking in front of large audience. And I would, for whatever reason, I saw that over and over again, of course, till I became a teenager. And then that imagination, the image left. Um, while I've been doing it, I have spoken in front of people, in front of, hundreds of people and so forth. Um, but TEDx was a journey. It was a very transformative journey because prior to this, when I spoke, it's been very spontaneous. It's been stream of consciousness. It's been either facilitating or coaching is very different than speaking. I would create slides, I would do whatever, but it was truly stream of consciousness. This particular talk was not. It was stream of consciousness in terms of creating it. However, it was all about memorizing it and speaking it to the point where memory is not my strongest strength, or it's not the gift that I came with. Spontaneity most definitely is. So the process to get to the point of delivering was, holy cow, what did I sign up for? And even though I was saying that, one thing it did do for me, it became very clear on my message on what I do and why I do it. That part became so clear. It has been sitting in my headspace in raw form for as long as I can remember. But if you were to ask me, like, Neerja, what is it that you do and how you do it? It was walking the TEDx path that helped me create it. So for that, I'm eternally grateful. And going on the stage, I know it's the sacred red dot that we stood on. It was fascinating because, if I may add, just the experience of it, Krishna is my idol. And in the break time, there was an Indian traditional dance of Krishna. And I'm like, how did that happen? Like,
Mhm.
is this stage getting cleared for me to really step up? And so there were a lot of little magical things that were going on in the path. However, when I stood there, I really did lose track of time. It wasn't me. Something, to me, it's like something larger than life carries you through the moment. And when I got off the stage, I thought, wow, that was only 7 minutes. We were supposed to talk for 10. And I know my talk, when we timed it, was 11.5 minutes. I must have forgotten so much. And it was not the truth. It was actually, I spoke for 12 and a half minutes. And um, I don't know what I don't know, because it was just a beautiful experience. And the clarity that came through this process was tremendous. And I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful for that.
I love it, and it does feel like it was very much channeled, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. So watching it, I'm sure I feel the energy of it already. So I'm sure it's super powerful. So well done.
Thank you.
What would your advice be for someone who is trying to find their voice? Kind of get that feeling of that you felt on stage.
Sign up for TEDx. That would be one way to find your voice. Um, really sit with yourself. Find time to ask yourself the tough questions. If there was nothing to fear, what would I be doing right now?
Hmm.
Where would my energy be in this moment if I had nothing to fear? A lot of what we do is by conditioning, and a lot of what we do is, supporting the image that we've created, the identity that we've created about ourselves. And we define ourselves with that. Our success is defined by these preconceived notions. And to be honest with you, it's stifling, it's suffocating.
It's hard work, right? Maintaining this image, this facade, is hard work for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, question yourself, like, hey, am I doing this because I truly love it? Or I'm afraid that I'm going to lose the sense of me? if I continue to do it.
Love it. I couldn't agree more. I mean, changing your question allows you to become more aware of who you are. And from awareness is kind of, that's when you kind of step into acceptance. And couldn't agree more, changing your question and having an honest conversation with yourself. This avatar you created, are you being authentic? I love having conversations with me in the mirror. Well, what are the parts of me I'm running away from? And just, it's an interesting time where, we're recording this, actually recording it on 11/11, so it's Portal Day, and 6 planets, where if you include Chiron as being a planet in retrograde, the energy is so intense, and I feel like we're being pushed to speak our truth, and which is why I asked you that question. But I'm curious, what's next for Neerja? If somebody wanted to reach out, find out more what you're doing, and also what's coming up, how would they reach out? What does that look like?
Yeah. What's next for Neerja? Even Neerja doesn't know what's next for me, but I do promise one thing, and that is with the grace, I truly know how to hold the space with absolute love and safety for transformation to happen. So if anybody wants to experience coaching, I'm here, and I do use different modalities, different tools, and trying to be a tuning fork to people. And they can definitely reach me. They can find me on LinkedIn, and I do have my website, rhythmofsuccess.com. And so that's one thing I can definitely promise. But I think there's another book. And Nimesh, you said that maybe one, two books, but I'm working on it. I'm working on my third book, and I love writing. It does bring me in the flow, so I'll definitely be writing more.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'll include all the links in the show notes. Neerja's a beautiful soul. So if I'll always say, if you're looking for somebody you work with, if their voice resonates, if you feel like you have a soul connection, then reach out. For me, anyone I work with is a soul contract. It's a decision that's made from the heart, not the head. So if you're getting that nudge, then reach out. So Neerja, as we're closing and as we start to close, we can talk for hours about this sort of stuff. But do you have any final bits of wisdom you want to share with our audience? Anything that's in your heart that we want to close with? Over to you.
Yeah, I would love to, if I may. Don't listen to your head. It will lie to you over and over again. And I use a very specific example. If I have just maybe 2 minutes to share this
Of
example,
course,
or less
go
than that.
for it.
So I was facilitating a course. It was a 5-day management training. It was being done virtually. And in the first 35 minutes or 40 minutes or so, I noticed one of the managers rolling his eyes every time I would open my mouth. And of course, my head started to tell me stories. I'm doomed. I'm making a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing to offend him. It's all my fault. And then I paused and asked myself this question, what else could be possible that I'm not aware of? And I paused and I said, hey, let's take an early break. And I reached out to the gentleman, and I actually asked him, I said, every time I open my mouth, I notice that you roll your eyes. Help me understand what's going on. And I went quiet, and my heart was racing because I didn't know what I was going to hear. And he said, oh no, Neerja, I live in an apartment building. It's not you. There's a cat upstairs, and every time it runs, it's actually scratching the floor. I'm not rolling my eyes. I'm merely looking up with disgust.
Oh, okay. I love it.
Yeah, so your mind is lying to you, and you can actually confirm by asking somebody to
I love
verify.
it. That's a
Listen
brave
to your
thing to do. That's a brave thing. I mean, I'll always say what other people think of you is none of your business. We wrap ourselves around, oh my God, what's this person thinking? What's this? And they've probably got something else in their mind. It's probably not even to do with you. And By the way, I hope back in my corporate days, I wasn't one of those that were rolling my eyes. But anyway, hope I was always present in your stuff. But Neerja, thank you for being here. Thank you for shining your light. I'm so proud of you for showing up to TEDx, using your voice, spreading your energy, your vibration, shining your light. Thank you for all that you do. I am sending so much love and light out to you. I'm looking forward to you shining your light even more. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that TEDx being released and you shining your light. So to all our listeners, this is a period, whenever I release this episode, this is a period to you to shine your light, to share your truth, to stand in your power and whatever that looks like. Maybe be brave if you feel like, and Neerja's example, if you feel like somebody is rolling their eyes to you, then why not go and ask them? It may not have nothing to do with you. And if it does, so what? The only person you've got to prove anything to is yourself. So, as I said, what other people think of you, how much control do we have? Do we really feel we can control what other people think of us? So if you take anything from this episode, take standing in your power, use your voice. And what other people think of you is none of your business. Sending so much love and light out. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone that's listening. Neerja, again, thank you. And I'm going to hand over to you for your final words before we close.
Nimesh, thank you. And ditto, thank you for sharing your light and thank you for sharing your wisdom. And thank you for inviting me to just hang out in this beautiful space with you. Very grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Sending love and light out to everybody. And Neerja, I'm sure you'll be back soon. Bye
Yes.
for now.